All right, welcome to the Ultimate Hockey Show. I'm Michael Dell, joined by Rich Petty. Good evening, Rich. How are
Good
you?
evening, Michael. I'm doing very good. How about you?
Yeah, my internet technical difficulties have been figured out. I'm broadcasting in the middle of the kitchen. Nobody's around right now, so it's what allows me to do it.
Nice.
But anyway, Rich, let's get right to it. The Winnipeg Jets lost their first game of the season last night to the Toronto Maple Leafs. A game in which I thought, and I was in the stands at Canada Life Center amongst however many thousand Leaf fans. Quite honestly, it was disgusting. But that's besides the point. I went in my Jets jersey. A bunch of people decided to go in Leaf jerseys. A bunch of people admitted to me they were Jets fans. When the Leafs are in town, they wear a Leaf jersey. I said, "Do you realize how that doesn't make any sense?" And they're like, "Mm-hmm." Uh, and then they beat the Jets, and the Leaf fans are going out of the building like they won the Stanley Cup. It was quite annoying.
It
But
is.
that's where
I'll add to that. It's more than annoying. I know because I was thinking the same thing. It's not like, for example, on the, you know how the Bombers for the Truth and Reconciliation weekend, if they play a
Yep.
home game, they ask season seat holders if you'd be willing to give up your tickets to let an indigenous kid go from up north, right? And then there's
Yep.
huge swaths. And there's sections where they maybe don't have season tickets, and that's where some of the kids and some of the folks from up north are as well. But what I understand is there's literally thousands of Bomber ticket holders that will, for that reason, give up their ticket so that somebody can go, someone else can go, which is very gracious, very nice. But they don't put on a Vikings jersey or a Lions jersey. They put on a Bomber jersey, usually with the indigenous logo on it, right? With the I think with the indigenous flag and some of the artwork there, which is really cool. I think it's a yellow jersey, right? If I remember correctly, or orange and
Orange.
yellow. Yeah,
Orange and
orange and
yellow,
yellow.
yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, very good. But they still cheer for the Bombers. And and then I start thinking about this home game. There's no way that when you look at how many Leaf jerseys are in the crowd, there's no, and especially in the lower bowl, which is in
Mm-hmm.
essence all season ticket holders, there's no way that those are all Jet fans that have handed over their seats to Leaf fans so that their Leaf fan friends can go to the game and cheer for the Leafs. It's not the case. I agree with you. I think the large chunk of it are people that are Jets fans. They're Jet season ticket holders. But then when the Leafs come to town, they throw their Jet jersey in the laundry hamper and they put on this Leaf piece of garbage. And then they cheer for the Leafs louder than for the Jets. You know what? Garbage. I don't care if you're a Leaf fan. That's great. Cheer for your hometown team. Like, that's a joke. You know what's actually really bad? Because that's not the way it is in others. Like if you go to Toronto and you're a Jet fan, you go to Toronto, you go to Dallas, and I've traveled to other places and I've gone with my wife and we've worn our Jet jerseys going to another arena. They don't put on Jet, not half the rink puts on Jets jerseys because the Jets are in town. Now, maybe it's because the Leafs and original six. I don't know. But either way, it's garbage. I just think it stinks. And if I had anything to do with it, I would ban season ticket holders from wearing a jersey other than a Jet jersey to a game. You season ticket holder, you wear a Jet jersey to a game, otherwise you're not allowed in the rink. Now I'm saying that a little bit tongue in cheek, but there's a part of me that says I actually believe that and I would do it because I just think there's something wrong where you go to a hockey game and the visiting team gets more cheers. Go Leafs, go. I just about threw up when I heard that garbage coming through my television last night when I was watching at home. I don't know what it sounded like.
It was weird. I'll say that because when the Jets fell behind 1-2-0, if you weren't paying attention, you would have thought that the Jets would have scored. That's how loud it was in that building.
Yeah.
And there's 2 rows in front of me and 2 rows behind me that were all Leaf fans. And they'd all jump up and they'd be out of the middle of nowhere. And then the funny thing is, like when the Jets started making their rally, Like all of them are sitting there after every Jets goal smirking. Like, here they come. And I'm like, I don't know. And then going out of the building was the worst for me. It
Yeah.
was police scored, the Leafs won, you guys suck, blah blah blah, right? I'm
I'll
like,
throw, yeah, I'll throw something else out there just because this is quite possible. It could actually quite possibly happen because we've joked about this. Can you imagine if the Jets and the Leafs get through the playoffs and they make Stanley Cup Finals, and now the Jets, whether they have home ice or whatever, so whether it's game 1 or game 3, they come to the arena. I wonder how many of these so-called Jet fans or Leaf fans are going to put on a Maple Leaf blue jersey versus putting on a white. Like that's where you're going to see the rubber hit the road in terms of who's enough of a jerk fan to actually wear your Leafs jersey when the Jets are in the Stanley Cup Finals. Like again, that's where if I was security, it's like you were walking in with a knife or a gun or marijuana or anything else. Oh, you don't what you got that jersey on, that Leaf thing with the blue logo on it. You can't come in. You have to take that off. We're gonna confiscate that, put that in the garbage here, and you can wear your underwear into the rink. Go ahead. That's what I would do. Or here's a Jet jersey. You can put this on. Now you can go inside. I wouldn't even let him in. It would be like a security risk. I would say you're not allowed in the rink. But I know that there'll be at least one yo-yo that if the Jets and the Leafs are in the Stanley Cup Final, one yo-yo would wear his Leafs alternate jersey, that ugly blue, and wear that into the rink. At least one. And that guy, when they put him on, and here's the best part, when they put him on camera and they show him, if I know who that is, I let his boss know. I hope he loses his job.
Well, it's interesting. Anyway, so that being said,
okay.
for those wondering, I did wear my Jets jersey. I posted
Good.
photo evidence on my social media. But we need to speak about a couple of things in this regard.
Okay.
One, how bad the first period was. I was shocked. I had heard about, the Jets are so dead in the first period. The Jets are so dead. You're gonna be so happy with the way they're playing. And 5 minutes into the game, they're down 4-0. And then I look at that power play, Red. What a beautiful work of art to watch.
Yep.
Like, to me, this Jets team showed me that even though they lost yesterday, which is going to happen, I think it's a one-off.
Yeah. I think so too. I think, listen, they can't go 80. Even Josh Morrissey made a joke today at the media. He said, "Yeah, we're not going. Yeah, we were hoping to go 82-0. So I guess it didn't happen." Yeah, okay. Yeah, they're going to lose the game. Now, if you look at the schedule, and this is what I try to tell people, this isn't a true picture. It's a little bit miragey, and here's why. Out of those first 8 wins, only one win was against the playoff team from last year, and that was the Oilers, who have played terrible the whole year. They've stunk. The other 7 games were all against non-playoff teams from last year. And now you play Toronto, another playoff team, and you lose. So I think there's a few things here. Hellebuck was not good. He was just average. He wasn't Hellebuck. Number 2, Neil Pionk and Samberg there.
They were a plus. They were
a -5.
-4.
They were on for all 5 goals against. They were just like, it was like the puck, every time it hit their stick, it was like it sawed it in half. It's like the puck was like a razor, or just like a razor knife or a razor blade chopping through it. Neil Pionk had more turnovers than a German bakery. It was crazy. He just turned the puck over. And you know what? That game, you just say to Samberg and Pionk, throw it away. It's garbage. Yeah, you're -5. Okay, goodbye. And you throw it away. Hellebuck wasn't good. But I also think, and folks forget this, they were in 3 different time zones before coming back home. They were in Central, then they were in West Coast, and then they were in Mountain, and then they came back home. They've played every second day for the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the last 2 weeks or 12 days. I just think they're tired. That's what it is. It's just a game. They get caught up. They get tired. They're not sharp. Then they go against a really good Leafs team that hasn't been playing well lately. And then they still almost got it into overtime, getting it within 1 goal with 3 minutes left or 2 minutes left or whatever it was. And you know what that tells me? The Jets are not that bad, and the Leafs, they're not that good. Yeah, they could score goals, but they're not good defensively. They are not good defensively.
Listen, if it wasn't for a Stoller saves on one of the penalties,
On Kyle Connor at a one-timer, he could have had 4 goals or 5 goals. I know.
it could easily be a tie game.
Yep, and then go into overtime, see what happens. I know, as bad as they played in the first period or first period, and then the first 5 minutes of second period being down 4-0, for them to get it to 5-4 with 3 minutes left is shocking. Yeah.
But what to me, Richard, I don't know if it looks like this on TV, but from where I was, and the Leafs were touching twice into my end, Austin Matthews just seemed to be non-existent for the most part. I don't know. Did you feel that way on TV too?
Yeah, his line didn't do as much. I mean, they got 1 goal, I guess, but it was mostly that combination of Tavares and Pacioretty that really played well.
And then Matthew Nice had a goal that was again off a bad broken play. But with me, if it's okay, I'd like to speak about this Jets power play. Like, it is amazing. Fun to watch.
Yeah, from being one of the worst last year to now being the very best in the league. Listen, if that power play is like that and that penalty kill is in the top 10.
Of course you did, Morgan. Get out of here. I'll put you from this stream. You saying go Leafs go. Well, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, that power play and that penalty killing, you can win a lot of games with that power play, that penalty killing, Hellebuck in net. You don't even have to score that many goals 5-on-5, even though the Jets will. Listen, it's one of those games. It just got away from them. They're tired. Those 2 guys did not play well. Pionk and Samberg. You know what? You throw it away. Now you go to Detroit. I think it's tomorrow night, or is it Thursday?
That's tomorrow night, yeah.
Yeah, tomorrow night. And you start over, and there you go. Then you go on another 8-game win streak. If they go 8-1 the next 82 games, I think they'll be okay. But hey, listen, that's okay. Do you want to chat about some of the other games?
Yeah. Let's do that. Let's back it up. The Leaf game was front and center, but tonight I saw it. And so I just wanted to talk about it. But let's back up. The game before, they were in Calgary, and on the premise of special teams, Cole Perfetti did the game-winning goal inside the final 4 minutes of regulation. Again, where I didn't feel the Jets were at their best, but they allowed themselves to stay in it and not let the tart leave before they could get their footing underneath them.
Yeah. Found a way to win in a unique way. But you know what I love the best about it? Actually, the best I love was Nazem Kadri. I don't know if you remember, there's about, I think it was about 5 minutes left in the game, maybe 4 minutes or whatever. And it's tied, right? It's 3-3.
Yep.
And Calgary's forechecking. They got a little bit of momentum. They're coming on. I don't know if you remember the play, but Neil Pionk is behind the net. The sort of Samberg had a guy, kind of pinched him off. Pionk came, took the puck, and was coming out from the right-hand side of Hellebuck, coming out from behind the net. What? Oh. And then in that moment, there comes Kadri, skates in front of him, and whacks him with a 2-hander right across the hands. And Pionk loses the puck as a result. And he goes, ow, he didn't drop a stick, but you could tell it hurt him. And he lost the puck. And Kadri then takes the puck. And now Calgary's got a chance now with an odd rush there in the zone as a result of that slash. So they call a penalty. And then the Jets score the penalty because they're running at about 50% on their power play right now. And after the game, Kadri says, well, some guys put themselves into the game. The two teams played really well, working hard against each other. Let the players decide. Don't some guys inserted themselves into the game. Yeah, well, you know what, Nazem? I'm not going to defend the referees because I don't normally defend the referees, but I want to give you some insight. Okay. You can't embarrass the referees and you can't do something like that. Like if you slash a guy in the hands at center ice and there's no causal effect to a 3-on-1 or a 2-on-1 or a breakaway going the other way, they're not going to call it. It's just because it's 3 minutes, 5 minutes, something. But if you slash a guy in the hands, which is a penalty, now granted, they don't call as often later in the game, but you cause the puck to be turned over and now your team gets an offensive opportunity as a result of that. If Calgary had been allowed to play that out and Calgary spins around, boom, Kadri fires the puck over the other side and Coleman fires it in the back of the net, you'd have a million people in Winnipeg screaming about how could they let that go and not call that a penalty because it caused a turnover, which then resulted in a goal. And the problem is the players don't realize you can't embarrass the refs. If you take that slash and you do that, the refs have to call it. So don't start going, the ref inserted himself in the game. Don't be a knob job. Don't slash a guy in the hands. Hook his stick a little bit, like knock his stick, hook his stick a little bit, give him a little tap on the blade, whatever, try to knock the puck off. But you do a penalty, you cause the puck to be turned over, you're forcing the ref to make that call. Because you're trying to embarrass him by putting him in that spot. So I don't blame the ref, even though I don't like the refs inserting themselves. But that play where it causes a turnover in the offensive zone, he has to call it. He can't ignore it. So Kadri was completely in the wrong, in my opinion.
Here's the problem. And don't shoot the messenger.
Okay.
That was a reputational penalty too on the part of Kadri.
You think so?
Absolutely. I think certain players get morally away in certain situations. But that play was so obvious that the ref would have, almost like you said, embarrassed himself by not calling it. And better yet, don't even put your team in that position to have to be in that possible position. I did call it at the last 6 minutes of the game. Listen,
Yeah.
I hate that thinking. I coach ball hockey, concept slightly different, and I always tell my team, do not put the official in a position, no matter what time of game, to call a penalty.
Yeah, exactly.
First period, third period, the standard could change. Do not do anything that resembles close to a penalty.
Correct. Kadri could have rubbed him out. He could have tried to body him off the puck. He could have tried to hook the stick from underneath a little bit, pop the stick up, and pull the puck away. He could have done lots of things that are legal. He chose to do the illegal thing. He puts the ref in a bad spot. He's got to call it. But I would call you on that. I don't know that it's just that it's Kadri's reputation. If that had been Coleman or any one of their other forwards other than Kadri, in that moment, turning the puck over there, I think the refs call it the same way because it right away gives Calgary an offensive opportunity that results from an illegal play. And it's bad, it's bad enough you do that in the first period, but you do that with 5 minutes left in the third period in a tie game, the refs have to call it. You don't do it. I agree with you. It's a dumb penalty. And if I was the head coach of Calgary, I wouldn't be upset with the refs. I'd be upset with Kadri for that situation. But anyway, on another note,
what do you think of the way the goals went in that game? The Jets had one goal going off the glass, off the back of the net, off Dustin Wolf's batting in.
Yeah. I mean, it happens. Well, it happened to the Jets last night with the Leaf goal.
Yeah.
So
fair enough.
It happens. It's just weird and kooky, but I mean, Kyle Connor is playing like a superstar. In my mind, he could have been the top 3 players of the week for the last 3 weeks because he's got a point in every game. He's got a 9-game point streak to start the season. He's one of the best players right now in the NHL overall everywhere. Just, I mean, it's amazing. I know there's some comments here in the section here.
Yeah.
Logan Stanley equals pylon. Yes, Logan Stanley is struggling. Part of it is he's not getting all the minutes, and he's not playing like he did when he first started in the NHL. I think we had this discussion before. Playing with Miller is pretty good. He's made some mistakes, Stanley. I think sometimes he overthinks things and he tries to do things that are far too complicated as opposed to doing the simple play. But I'm going to say it again. I think I said on the show before, that guy was a first-round draft pick, and they traded a second-rounder to move up in the first round to get him at 18 or 16 or whatever it was. They are not trading him for a bag of hockey pucks, for a pylon, or even for another hockey player. They've invested too much in him. They're going to give him every opportunity this year to play. And he's going to play all 82 games. In my mind, or he'll play close to 82 unless he gets injured or something happens. But he'll get better. Because he's not, what's good is he's not put in really tough situations. He's a great killer of penalties. He plays against, for the most part, the third and the fourth line. Once in a while, he'll get out there against the second line. But he's okay. And you know what? He's going to get better. Trust me. People, don't throw in the towel on him yet. He's going to get better. The more confidence he gets, the more ice time he gets, the more time he gets playing with other good players, the better he will be, in my opinion.
I agree 100% because I think this is one of the most sustained runs of gameplay that I think Logan Stanley is about to get.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think so too. I think they're going to invest. They're going to try and play him right through. I mean, they'll play Fleury once in a while because they can't let him sit for like 80 games or whatever.
Yeah, and then they have to make another decision once Billy Heinola comes back.
And then Heinola too. So how are they going to rotate in Heinola and Fleury relative to Miller and Logan Stanley?
Yeah.
You know what? The Jets haven't had an injury yet. It's a long season. Injuries are going to come, especially on defense. You get a shot block, you get cranked in front of the net, you spin the wrong way, and you twist your knee. There will be injuries. It's inevitable. So whatever.
So there is one player that it was kind of brought to my attention by the person that I was going to the game with yesterday.
Yep.
And then sort of seeping out in some other conversations as well. Where are you on Dylan DeMello? Like, to me, they like playing Dylan DeMello and Josh Morrissey together.
Yep.
I just think that Dylan DeMello is not the type of player to handle top pairing minutes as currently constructed. I think you and I have had this discussion before, but I think they need another. If the Jets are serious about making a Stanley Cup run, they need another partner to play with Josh Morrissey that's a lot like Josh Morrissey that plays from the other side, and you can eliminate some of the minutes of Dylan DeMello. Like, where do you sit on Dylan DeMello? Like, I think he's a great hockey player, but I think he's playing a bit over his head when it comes to first-line defensive pair minutes.
Well, last year he played with Josh Morrissey for the majority of the year, and they were one of the highest-ranked defensive pairings overall in the league last year in terms of all the Corsi numbers, in terms of scoring opportunities allowed, goals against, defensive time zone allowed, whatever. Like that, he is a very solid, good defenseman. Now, if you had a loaded team and you had the right players in every situation, like if you still had Jacob Trouba, let's say, or Dustin Byfuglien, maybe even, if they were still around, you would play them with Josh Morrissey in the first pairing, and you'd play DeMello in the third pairing. But you know what? He's not 6'4" and 220 pounds. He's not nasty, but you know what he is? He's a smart player. He blocks shots. He knows how to pinch guys off. He knows how to use his size. In the playoffs, it could sometimes be a little bit more of a challenge. I don't know how the Jets are going to do with the size they have, both with Josh Morrissey and DeMello in the first pairing, as well as that second line with Nemestikov, Ehlers, and Perfetti. I just think overall the team is a little bit small, but right now with their speed, they're able to generate a lot of offense. And I think I like Dylan DeMello. I just think you can't, like, you got him. Like the Jets signed him for was it a 3 or 4 year extension at about $3.5–4 million a year? So I mean, pardon?
3-year extension.
Okay. Or $5 million or whatever. I mean, they like him, and he's good. Like, you look at the numbers, look at the video, look at Corsi, look at all the all the metrics, as well as just the eye test, Josh Morrissey and Dylan DeMello don't let a lot of goals get scored against them. Last night, they weren't on the ice for any goals. So I'm just saying, and they play against the other team's better lines because they're on the top line. They're on the top. They usually play with Scheifele's line, and Scheifele's line gets matched up against the first line from the other team and the other first team's or the other team's first defensive pairing. So long story short, I like Dylan DeMello. Yeah. Could I go back in the lab and make him 6'4", 220 pounds and put a lot of McNasty into him? Sure, but I can't do that, right? And we don't have anybody who could play at that level. You can maybe move Colin Miller up there. I know.
Yeah, this is what Rob is alluding to. He said, would you move Miller or Sabert up to play with Morrissey?
Well, Sandberg is a lefty, so you're not going to take him off the left side. So he's going to play with a righty, and Morrissey's a lefty. So your only options to play with Josh Morrissey are DeMello, Pionk, which they do sometimes at the end of the game. When they're down a goal, they'll put Pionk with Morrissey because they're the two most offensive defensemen, and they're a right and a left combined. But for the most part, you're going to see, DeMello there all year. In case DeMello gets injured, and then you're right, then maybe they move Colin Miller up there to play with him. But I don't know. I like Dylan DeMello, and the numbers show it. It's not just me watching it on the television. If you look at all the metrics, everything, and the Jets wouldn't have signed him or gone after if they didn't think that he was valuable. So, but
what did you think of the Seattle game?
Let me see here. What did they do? Oh, they won 4-3.
That was the Eagles' overtime winner.
Yeah. Well, Seattle's a good team. I mean, they got some very good players on that team. They brought in Montador there. He's just everywhere on the ice, eh? You just see the confidence that guy plays with after winning the Stanley Cup last year and being such a big part of it in Florida. That guy is just everywhere. He's a roamer. He's in front of the net, then he's behind the net, then he's in the middle of the ice, then he's back, then he's on the power play on the first unit. So he's a very good team. So long story short, Seattle's a good team. They are very good. And the Jets, you know what? They're on the road. It's tough to win on the road. And so far the Jets are undefeated on the road. I mean, they've played only 4 games, but all of them are wins so far. So yeah. I can't remember the Seattle game as much. I remember the St. Louis game quite a bit. And I remember the Flames game and now like the game from the last night. But for whatever reason, I can't remember the Seattle game. It was Thursday. I might have. Oh yeah, it was a late game. That's why I was half asleep when I was watching it because it ended until like 11:45 or whatever it was. So, but
yeah, it was also the game where they blew a 3-1 lead and then came back to win in overtime.
Right. Yeah.
But for various of a couple broken plays.
Yeah.
Take me back to the St. Louis game. I thought that was the most difficult game this week that the Jets were able to win.
Yep.
St. Louis is that prototypical Central Division heavy, don't make things easy. You have to kind of wait them out a little bit. The Jets slowly starting to quote-unquote gain credibility with strength of schedule, if you will, by playing St. Louis the way they did. And to me, it was just a Central Division game, but the Jets were able to limit their mistakes, score one more goal than their opponent, and escape with the road win.
Yeah, it was like that game I remember because I remember how hard it was for the Jets after seeing them like skate so freely against the Penguins and then San Jose, like those first 2 games or the 2 previous games where they scored 14 goals. Yeah, so they were just allowed to freewheel and score. And then they come up against St. Louis, and you just know St. Louis, they're not going to let you just skate around and do whatever you want. You're going to have to fight for area on the ice. You're going to have to go to hard areas. I mean, it's almost like when you play St. Louis, it's like a playoff game in October, right? So it's just it was hard, and that's why I like to see I figured it was going to be a low-scoring game, and that's exactly what it was. Each team did not give the other team a lot of opportunity. The Jets play well defensively too. St. Louis plays well defensively. The goalies played really well. So I like the game. I mean, some folks don't like it. They'd rather watch a game like 8-3 over San Jose, but that wasn't even a hockey game. When San Jose rolled in here on the 18th, I think it was Friday, they had played the night before in Minnesota. They looked so tired. The Jets just rolled over them easy peasy. So that's not a fun game to watch because it's like you're watching men playing against children almost. That's what it seems like. Because the Jets, I think they controlled the ice. They had the puck possession. It was ridiculous. There were sometimes 3-4 minutes where the puck was in the offensive zone for the Jets. Almost the whole time, like 4 minutes, maybe it went out and then came right back in again, and then just cycling and shots and just, yeah. So, I mean, they're not a very good team, San Jose. They're still very young, and yeah. But anyway.
Oh, no, if I would have told you the Jets would have been 8-1 in the first 9 games, you would have taken it, right?
Well, for sure. And I think last week we said I predicted, and so did you, they would go 2-1-1, and they ended up going 3-1. So not too shabby.
Yeah.
Not too shabby. Yep. Hey,
let's quickly talk, if you don't mind, about the rest of the National Hockey League. We'll come back to the week it is for the Winnipeg Jets. Okay. I think the top story in the National Hockey League, it looks like Connor McDavid might miss some time for the Edmonton Oilers with a lower body injury, which is reportedly a knee injury. Where does this put the Oilers, already struggling behind the 8 ball, to push themselves back into a playoff scenario?
Yeah, it's a very tough scenario. I think if I saw correctly, the Oilers right now are 4-5-1, I believe, if I remember correctly. Yep, 4-5-1. They're sitting out of a playoff spot. They're sitting in 6th in the Pacific. But well, Michael, never mind. Like if the Jets lost Hellebuck, or if the Jets lost Mark Scheifele or Kyle Connor, I mean, it's one of their very best players, it would have a huge impact on the Jets. Now you take away the very best player in the world, arguably, that's probably the case, and the very best player on that team, and you take them out of their lineup. Yeah, they won last night against Detroit in overtime, I believe. I think Draisaitl scored in overtime, if I'm not mistaken, but it's going to be a hard sled for Edmonton. They're going to have to really try to get some scoring from some other people. I mean, Draisaitl's played pretty good, but where is Zach Hyman? Like, what the heck is going on with Zach Hyman? He's only got, I think, 1 goal in his first 9 games or 10 games now. It's crazy. Like, I mean, and he's played with McDavid. It's not like it's not like he's been playing on the 4th line. So they got to find some scoring from some other guys. Some other guys got to start to step up here. Like they brought in Arvidsson. Arvidsson's going to have to score now and score some more.
Yeah,
Hyman's going to have to start scoring. They're going to have to start getting more scoring from Draisaitl.
And I think, Richard, we're being honest, I think Stu Skinner has to be better.
And Stuart Skinner, he has not played well this year so far after being so fantastic in the playoffs last year, eh?
It's almost like they have a playoff hangover, and it's going to take them a bit to reset.
It is a cliche, isn't it? But when you think about it, it really makes sense. You pour body, soul, and spirit into that pursuit, and you go like into, how was it, like the middle of June, roughly, by the time it was all done?
Game 7 was on like the 23rd or 24th of June.
Okay, so almost the end of June. And then you got July, August. So you basically have 2 months and maybe a week, maybe 9 weeks. Yeah, but they're ready. Training camp starts like the first week of September is already training camp. So I'm just saying you got basically just over 2 months to recuperate physically. Now you're not going to take the whole summer off. You got to start training again. But even if you take 2 or 3 weeks off, I just think it's a short break. It's hard, and then to get that reset mentally to say, we poured so much into last year, and we start over.
I think that's what makes what Tampa did all the more impressive.
What do you mean, that they went so many years in a row?
Yeah, they won 2 Stanley Cups in a row into the final in the 3rd year in the Cap era.
Yeah,
and it hasn't been ratified and hasn't been duplicated, and likely won't.
Yeah, you're right. But yeah, I just Yeah, I think the Oilers are just going to be in a really tough spot. I know they say lower body injury. I'm not sure what it is. Some people are saying it's the hip. Some people are saying it's the knee. Some people are saying it's the ankle. Some are saying it's
Yeah.
a thigh. Like it's, I don't know. Whatever it is, it wasn't good. Although what's interesting is that it's not like he hit the boards and he just laid there and they had to bring out a stretcher. I
Right.
mean, he played. He played the rest of the shift. Like I mean, he's a strong kid and he's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
tough kid. He didn't roll over and die. So to me, that is a little bit of a silver lining. If it's a pulled muscle or it's a slightly pulled ligament in his knee or whatever it is, yeah, he's out for a little bit, 2-3 weeks maybe, but it's not. I don't believe anything was
In the
forced.
grand scheme of where the Oilers want to go, 2 to 3 weeks is not an awful long
Not the
time.
end of the world. It could have been way worse, right? So the fact that he skated around in a shift and he played the rest of the shift before he went off, yeah, to me that's an encouraging sign. But
What stands out to you from the Eastern Conference? I know we haven't talked much about what's going on in the East. You look at the bottom of the Atlantic Division, and you see the two teams from Pennsylvania down there. Um, Columbus, I think, could be forgiven for, the whole Didro situation. What stands out in the Eastern Conference in your mind so far? I mean, that Atlantic division is tight. Florida at 15, Ottawa at 8, top to bottom. Everybody between 8 and 11 games played.
yeah,
New Jersey currently ahead of the Rangers, although the Rangers have 4 games in hand, and the Devils have the most games played in the division. Washington may be off to a 5-2 start. A bit of a surprise. But for me, Rich, it has to be the two teams from Pennsylvania combining for a 5-12-2 record. If you put the two together, I think Philadelphia could be forgiven for having that record, but not Pittsburgh. And again, I know it seems like we talked about this every week at nauseum. To me, the Penguin season is done as currently constructed.
yeah. Well, like I told you, I went to that game against the Penguins, and they have Sidney Crosby playing with O'Connor and Rust. I mean, there's no Jake Gensel there. How can you play Sidney Crosby? Like, can you imagine if Sidney Crosby had Jake Gensel? Can you imagine if Sidney Crosby had Kyle Connor on his left wing? I'm just saying let's say it's embarrassing is not the right word. I guess it's, you know what? They've traded away so many draft picks to get guys and to bring in senior guys and add guys at the trade deadline and bring all these older guys. They keep thinking that this window of Crosby, Letang, Malkin is going to stay open forever. And they're all 35 plus. Like, it's closing. In fact, it may only be open a crack. And that's it. That team is not going to make the playoffs. I saw them play, and I don't know how many injuries they have. I don't think there's that many guys out of the lineup, but that team is not a playoff team as it's constructed. Nope.
Mm-hmm.
They could score here and there on the power play because they've got some talented players when they get space, but they were almost non-existent 5-on-5. And Sidney Crosby, I mean, I feel sorry for him. He's a superstar, and you got to play with guys like that at the end of your career. I mean, there's nothing against O'Connor and Rust. Listen, they're in the NHL, and I'm not. So who am I to talk? I'm just saying, Sidney Crosby, compared to who he played with when he first started playing, he was playing with Mario Lemieux in his first season on the same line as Lemieux, which is pretty.
And listen, I wasn't that great either the first 2 years. The Penguins were a lottery team, man, but
yeah,
it just seems like for whatever reason they're trying to delay the inevitable.
I know, and it's not good. And Philadelphia, I think, is still very young. I think that team is going to get better. They've got some good players. They got good young players in the system that they've already drafted, and this new Russian kid that Murakanov or whatever,
Vatley Mishkov.
Or Mishkov, okay, whatever. Very, very good player. Like they'll be fine, Philadelphia. You're not going to make the playoffs this year, but Tortorella will have them playing honestly. They'll play hard. they'll probably just miss they'll be the one team out or one or two spots out from the playoffs. But Pittsburgh is not a good team. But what's interesting on the other side, I know you mentioned it, you just kind of ran over it really quickly, but the Atlantic, if you look at the Atlantic, every team is at 500 or better, except for the Sabres. They're 4-5-1. So they've lost one in overtime, but they're 4-5-1. Every other team is 500 or better in that entire division, which is incredible. So long story short, you've got Ottawa in last place in the Atlantic, and they're literally 3 points away from the Leafs, who are in third place, but the Leafs have played 2 more games. So this division is like, when we look at what they look like right now, this could flip-flop very easily. I mean, Detroit can win 3 in a row, and Toronto can lose 3 in a row, and that just it changes on a dime. So this, there you see Detroit is in 4th place. You see the Bruins in 6th place. You see the Senators in last place. This division, because it's so tight, I agree with you. And there's only 7 points separating first from last, and there's a variance in games played from 8 to 11. I think
that's a big variance when you talk about missing points, though.
Yeah. Well, I know that's what I'm saying. Like, it's so early. We're only 8 to 11 games into the season. It's 1/8 of the season. I think there's lots of hockey played, and this thing could all still get flip-flopped around. And maybe not everybody from the top. Like, maybe Florida doesn't fall out of the top spot, but Tampa and Toronto could easily, because those teams, the way they're constructed right now, they're not as good as Florida. They could easily play go on a road trip or play 4 or 5 really good teams from last year, or teams in playoff positions or with good records. They could lose 4 or 5, and suddenly they drop from 2 or 3 down to 5 or 6. It can happen very easily. So that division is pretty exciting to see. And I agree with you. Like, the other one there, I mean, you got New Jersey, New York, and Carolina in the 3 playoff spots now, and those are very good picks. I would agree with you. Washington winning 5 of their first 7 games absolutely stuns me. I just never expected Washington to be that good. And what's crazy is, I don't know if you've seen any of the games, it's not like Ovechkin has been scoring like a madman in those games. They've been getting scoring from other guys other than Ovechkin. So
yeah, it's pretty interesting, for sure. What do you make of Boston? Not a lot of talk, but now that Jeremy Swayman's done, they're working on an extension with Brad Marchand. Brad Marchand and Jim Montgomery had a bit of a run-in on the bench.
Okay. Yeah.
What do we make of the Boston Bruins? Like, I know they're good year after year with consistency, constant playoff team, constant born in the side of at least the Toronto Maple Leafs. Is there a level of consistency that most teams would sort of strive to be in Boston?
Yeah, like I just wouldn't worry about the Bruins. I just think that they'll be fine. They will figure it out, and they'll be good still. They're too good. They have way too good a coach. They have way too good a goalie, way too good a system. Yeah, they're getting older. Marchand is getting older. Pasternak is getting older. But they've got some good players there, and they play that system. It's sort of like the Jets. You could say Marchand is a superstar. I would say he was a superstar. Same with Pasternak. They're kind of on the down slope of their careers. I wouldn't say either one of them is in the top 50 best players in the league. But in that way, the Bruins are kind of like the Jets. They have a very good goalie. They can score when they need to. They play a system defensively very well. I would say the Jets are better because the Jets have more team speed than the Bruins do, but very similar.
I'll be right.
Yeah.
I'll come right back.
Where are you going?
Sorry?
Where are you going?
No, I just have to take care of something very quick.
Okay, I'll keep talking. Okay, so the Bruins, I mean, to me, they're like the Jets, and They're going to play that system, and it's going to give them more success more often than not. And they're going to win more games than they lose because they play that defensive system. They don't have any one big superstar, just like the Jets. They have some very good players. They have a very good netminder. They play a system very well. And the Jets are just figuring it out. Like, that's how you can win consistently, is playing that way. The Bruins figured that out a long time ago, and they keep just adding players, and guys buy into the Bruin way, and they keep winning, and they keep consistently being a good team and a playoff team year after year after year with a chance to win. So I'm not that concerned about the Bruins in the situation that they're in right now. I would be more concerned about a team like the Edmonton Oilers. I just think with now losing McDavid and being in that post-playoff funk, I just think they're gonna have a hard time turning it around. They'll win here and there because they have a lot of talent on that team, but that's going to be really tough to turn it around, get the right mojo, and do it without Connor McDavid in the lineup. I think that would be very, very hard for them to do, but we will see. We will see. Are you back? Oh, there you are.
Yeah, everything's good.
Good.
Why don't we talk about the week that is coming for the Winnipeg Jets? I think it's an interesting week.
Yeah.
It's at Detroit, at Columbus, home to Tampa before our next show.
Okay. Yeah.
How do we feel about these matchups?
Well, going on the road, listen, Columbus just made a pudding out of Edmonton. They won 6-1. And
but the Jets also did the same.
Correct. And Detroit just lost to Edmonton. No, who did they lose to? Detroit. No, that was the night before. Yeah, I think they lost to
Edmonton on Sunday.
Yeah, I think there was back-to-back. I think Edmonton played a Columbus one night and then played a Detroit the next night or whatever it was there. Yeah, so, but
yeah, Detroit lost to Edmonton on Sunday.
Yeah, so it's I think those are winnable games. At Detroit and Columbus, they're not playoff teams from last year. But if you count them out or you don't bring your A game, like, anybody can beat anybody in the NHL. But I think they're very winnable games on the road because neither Detroit or Columbus was a playoff team from last year. And then at home with Tampa Bay to start off that 4-game home series or 4-game at home streak with Tampa, Utah, Colorado, and Dallas. That'll be a very interesting 4-game stretch because those are 4 very good teams. And I think the Jets can win at Detroit and at Columbus, but then the next 4 at home, that's going to be a really good test because those are all good teams, and 3 out of the 4 were in the playoffs last year. So how about for you?
Yeah, I think this is the way to. This is going to be a week that's going to show a lot of people that this 8-game win streak was not fake. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think there's going to be a lot of attention on tomorrow's game. Can the Jets get back to that sort of that aggressive, always playing on the front foot, being aggressive, that whole nature?
Yeah.
But I also think that it would be appropriate, I guess, if they took a step back, like every team does. You know, 1 loss has become 2. You know what? I'll be honest. Part of me is so disappointed in yesterday because
really,
yes, they played well enough to win, but didn't play well enough for a 10 or 12-minute stretch in the first period and to start the second period where it put themselves behind the 8 ball. So,
yep.
Using that as a perspective, I would expect the Jets to bounce back tomorrow. And by bounce back, I don't necessarily mean winning. Like, once the Jets got back to their game but made them so successful, it was too little too late last night. I think there's plenty of motivation for Hellebuck to play well. The Jets have historically played well in Detroit. Um, I would expect Hellebuck to play tomorrow. Then we maybe did Eric Comrie on Friday if you wanted to put him in. And then you did Hellebuck for the afternoon game on Sunday. There's no reason with why this Jets team can't go 2-0-1 this week and not their play from this 8-game win streak.
Okay. I'm not that bullish. I would just say 2-1. So I think they'll lose one of the three. I'm not sure where, but yeah, we only have 3 games between now and our next show. So, but yeah, I also wanted to just, I know we're talking about the week that is, but we still have a few minutes, right? We could still.
Yep.
I think we have another 8 minutes or so, 7-8 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also wanted to just say, like you're saying, what are surprises or what's some things? I'm still shocked. I still keep waiting for Nashville to go and just blow up, just win games 5-0 over and over and over again. I cannot figure it out. They added so much talent on that team, and yet they're 3-5-1. Is that what they are?
Yeah.
I can't figure them out, but I will give credit to the Tampa Bay Lightning, who put on a very nice tribute session for Steve Stamkos last night. Did you hear about it?
I didn't see it. No, that I was.
No, I asked if you heard about it. If you heard about it.
I didn't hear about it. No.
Okay.
No.
It was very nice. I didn't see it either, but I read about it just in the news today, and I think he was very surprised. It looked like he was very overwhelmed emotionally. It's a hard thing, eh? You do that sort of a tribute, like a guy leaves in free agency. Now, did he want to stay? You know what? I bet he wanted to stay, but he didn't want to stay at the price that Tampa Bay was willing to pay him, right? I think they wanted to pay him like $4 to $5 million, and I think he got about $8 million a year, right, for 3 years with Predators, I think. So he got about $9 million more over 3 years. Hey, listen, the guy's he's got to take care of himself and take care of his family.
At the end of the day, it's a business decision.
It's a bit the same as it is for the team. The team makes the business decision. But I'm just saying, not everybody can be Steve Yzerman and play with your with the team that picked you out of the gate, or even like a Sidney Crosby. And that's not even yet to be confirmed, because you don't know what's going to happen until Sidney Crosby retires. But if Wayne Gretzky can get traded or leave in free agency, anybody can. And that was a shocker to me back in the day when that happened in 1988. I was summer of 88, I believe it was. And ever since then, I'm just like, there's nobody who's guaranteed to be with their team forever. But that being said, that the team decides, yeah, we're not going to pay you that much, and they walk away. Yzerman still thinking of Steve Yzerman, and he goes away. Stamkos and finds a deal in Nashville, but yet still comes back, and they're able to honor him in his whatever it was, 12 years, 13 years in Tampa Bay. I have to tip my hat to Tampa Bay, because it was a very classy thing to do. So.
Listen, I still think he didn't retire a member of the Tampa Bay Lightning when all is said and done, and his jersey will be in the rafters in Tampa.
Sure, I think so too. That's where he won his cups. Now, I mean, if he wins 3 years in a row with Nashville and wins 3 cups, well, maybe you got a different argument. But even still, even if he won the cup the next 3 years in a row with Nashville, I agree with you. He'll do one of those things where you sign as a free agent for one day, and then you retire.
Just like Brian Little.
And then you retire as a Tampa Bay Lightning. I think so too. I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it just goes to show, I think, with Nashville, right? We winning the offseason on paper doesn't necessarily mean winning the offseason in the standings in season.
I agree.
Yeah. Granted, we're 11 games in, but
I know. And maybe I'm just
much.
Maybe we're just being far too impatient, right? But like I was expecting with that, like it's not like they signed one guy and they signed Marcia Show, and they signed that Shaw or Ska from Carolina, or Shea
She,
Brady Shea
she,
or Ski or I
she,
forget. I
Shea,
always
I
mix
don't
up
know.
how they pronounce his name.
Shea, Brady
Shea. I think
Shea.
it's
Oh,
Brady Shea, yeah, who was very good with Carolina. Rod Brindamore hated to see him go. He mentioned it several times. So I'm just saying, you got Brady Shea, Stamkos, and Marcia Show. You figure that team would be just way better in terms of scoring goals, and yet they've struggled. They have struggled to win. I'm going to see what is their
yeah.
they're -8. They've only produced they barely produced two. They haven't even produced 2.5 goals for a game, and they have allowed over 3 goals a game, and they've barely scored 2 and change, 2.5 per game. So that just really surprises me that they've struggled that way. But I agree. We may just
Yeah,
be far too impatient.
it's interesting. Um, it's interesting for sure. What's going to happen with NHL going forward, and I think even the trade deadline sort of going to set the tone for the last 6 weeks, and then anybody's game in the playoffs if they get it locked in correctly.
Right. And what's unique this year too, if I'm not mistaken, is there is no All-Star game because they have that
Yeah, yeah, they have
international
that
tournament,
Four Nations face off. Yeah,
right? Which happens, if I'm not mistaken here, if I'm looking at the calendar.
it's February 13th, 20th by the sounds of it.
Oh, so there's a week, sort of a player break, and then just a 1 week tournament or 8-day tournament.
Yeah, hold on. It is
Because I
February
see
12th to 20th.
12th to 20th. Okay. So is there still an All-Star game there, like at the first week
No,
of February? There's
no,
none,
it's in lieu of the All-Star game.
but they will still announce All-Stars, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
just we are clear. Can you still see me, Red?
yep.
Okay, because I'm reading off the screen here.
Yep.
Maybe we can get into this in December because they're going to announce sort of the rest of the rosters at some point in
Well,
December. But the
listen.
preliminary schedule has half the tournament being played at the Bell Center in Montreal
Yeah.
and the other half at TD Garden in Boston.
Yeah.
It opened on February the 12th at 7 o'clock Central with Canada and Sweden. On the 13th, the U.S. will play Finland at 7 o'clock. Saturday, February 15th, will be Finland and Sweden in the afternoon at noon. 7 o'clock will be the U.S. and Canada. Monday, February 17th, will be the last 2 round-robin games. Noon will be Canada, Finland. 7 o'clock will be Sweden and the U.S., with the championship final being played Thursday, February 20th at 7 o'clock at the TD Garden in Boston.
Okay,
And
so there's basically 3 rounds. You play each team once, and then whoever's
yeah,
in first and second out of the 4 teams, they play in the final game.
yeah.
The other 2 teams are out. Okay.
Both teams have announced all 4 teams have actually announced their first 6 players to their roster. Canada has announced Braden Point, Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, Connor McDavid, and Brad Marchand. Team Finland has announced Sebastian Aho, Alexander Barkov, Miro Heiskanen, Esa Lindell, Mikko Rantanen, and UC Zaros. Team Sweden has announced Philip Forsberg, Gustav Forsland, Victor Hedman, Eric Carlson, William Nylander, and Mita Zibanejad.
Yeah.
Zibanejad, that's better.
Mm-hmm.
I can get out of my mouth better. Team USA has announced Charlie McAvoy, Jack Eichel, Adam Fox, Quinn Hughes, Austin Matthews, and Matthew Tkachuk.
Okay, so there's no Jets in there, but I guarantee you this. Then this is a no-brainer. Team USA final roster will include starting goaltender Connor Hellebuck.
Not even a question.
And left winger Kyle Connor. Team Canada will have Josh Morrissey and Mark Scheifele on that team. There will be 4 Jets that will be on those 2 teams. I don't think we have Finland and Sweden. I don't think we have anybody that would qualify on that level from our team.
Nope.
But those 4 guys will be in this cup. Mark my words. Unless they get injured, right? So, but
yeah, and then we'll have some coverage around that tournament probably before the Canada games or something to the during the player break.
Sounds good. Okay, so you're picking the Jets to go 2-0-1. I'm picking them to go 2-1. We got a few listeners who are saying 3-0. I love the optimism. I think that's awesome. Why not? Why not go on another 8-game win streak, right? Before they lose another one. I'd love to see it.
And certainly, Rhett, by the end of the season, one thing will be clear. The 8-game win streak that they had to start the year will certainly help their playoff positioning.
Oh, for sure. Yep. Right on.
All right, that is it. We are back on Monday. Stay tuned for that. And enjoy your week, everybody. On behalf of Brett Petty, this is Mike Rodell saying good night from Winnipeg. Thank you so much for watching.